I'd now like to reintroduce Emeritus Professor Jacquie Rand, who's going to talk about attitudes to pet containment and community cat programs. Thank you.
Get this up right. Great. Can you all see me and can you all hear me? Fantastic. I'd just like to acknowledge Michael Franklin, who was doing an MPhil and collected this data, and also Linda Marsden. So, stray cats, based on the research that we've done, stray dogs and cats comprise 60 to 70% of all admissions into RSPCA shelters around Australia, and 80 to 100%, depending on the council and what they take, of admissions into council pounds. And strays are costly because many of them are not reclaimed, and particularly cats. When we look at it across Australia, similar numbers of dogs and cats enter shelters and pounds. But as you're quite aware, cats have a much poorer outcome. And based on the research we've done, they're 4 to 6 times more likely to be euthanased than dogs, with the average rate, the best estimate of average euthanasia rates for dogs of being 12% around Australia and 52% for cats. And we're all aware that this has mental health effects and damages people's lives who are involved in the euthanasia. So there's good reasons to prevent straying. It's benefit to the community, reduces risks to humans, particularly dog bites, occasionally car accidents, a lot of concern about wildlife predation, and of course injury to the animal. And nuisance behaviours result in complaints which result in costs to local government authorities from dogs and cats roaming, cats fighting, yowling, soiling property, costs money to deal with. So for many years, there's been both at the state government level and at the local government level regulations to keep dogs on their property. But until recently, there haven't been for cats, but increasingly now both at the state level and or at the local government level, that legislation's been introduced, so cats are either kept on their property or must be confined at night. But of course, legislation success depends on the cooperation and the behaviour of the public. Depends on their attitude to the regulation, the perceived cost of compliance versus non-compliance, and as Jessica talked to us yesterday, I think it was about also social norms. What do that people believe about other members of the community believing, and they can be greater importance in whether they actually do something or not. So when you look at the literature, there hasn't been very much in the way of studies investigating in Australia attitudes of pet owners towards dog and cat confinement and what influences those attitudes. And of course, it's important to understand the public's beliefs and attitudes to be able to target strategies to alter their behaviour, eventually to do what you want. So the aims of this study were to determine the attitudes and beliefs of Australian dog and cat owners towards confinement, and particularly to establish whether there were demographic factors, social norms, beliefs about wildlife predation, or concern about welfare that affected their attitudes. And also, whether there was a difference between dog and cat owners. So we created a survey, we did a lot of pilot testing with it, put it out to lots of Facebook pages, RSPCA, welfare groups, rescue groups, wildlife groups. We got 1,700 respondents around Australia, 560 of those were dog only. Between dog and cats, they only owned a dog, 476 only owned a cat, and 679 owned at least one dog and one cat. Now, the problem with online internet surveys is women always respond a lot more than men. So you do get a biased sample. You can get lots of numbers, but it's biased. And 2/3 of them were aged between 26 and 55 years of age. The most popular states that they came from were Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. Most people lived in a residence with a garden, and when we looked at the survey, the next biggest group was mainly acreage. I don't think a lot of those were actually rural or farm. And when we looked at those people, how attached were they to their animals? They were both attached to their dogs and their cats. And when you added strongly agree and agree about attachments, 99% said they were attached. So, you know, a pretty committed group, and the same regarding the pet as a family member, a bit more than with dogs and cats, but again, when you added the strongly agree and agree together, very committed people. And then we asked them about how strongly they agreed or disagreed to the statement that dogs should be confined inside the house at night. And only 55% agreed with that, but 91% agreed with that for cats. Then we asked them, should dogs be confined to their owner's property whenever unsupervised? And 99% said yes, they agreed strongly or agreed. But with cats, it was only 77%, and 11% disagreed or strongly disagreed with that. And that was a significant difference. And then, this will do your head in a little bit, but then we asked dog owners whether dogs should be confined inside at night, and 53% said yes. But we asked cat owners whether dogs should be confined inside at night, and 58%, so not much different there. But then we asked dog owners whether cats should be confined inside at night, and 95% said yes. But interestingly, when we asked cat owners whether they should be confined inside at night, 89%. And so not a big difference, but it was significant. But then, when we asked dog owners whether dogs should be confined to their owner's property whenever unsupervised, 99% said yes. Cat owners, 97% believed that dogs should be confined to their owner's property whenever unsupervised. When we asked dog owners whether cats should be confined, 89%, but interestingly, cat owners had a significantly different attitude, and only 70% believed that they should be totally confined to their owner's property. And then we asked them, because we're particularly interested in this, whether it was acceptable for dogs to roam outside their property. And only 7% said yes. But for cats, 23% said it was acceptable for the cat to roam outside the owner's property. And then we asked them about social norms. What did they believe other people thought? So did they think other people thought that dogs should be confined to the owner's property? Now, 88%, remember 99% of them thought it, they believed it. And it's probably because they were seeing dogs roaming, they thought that other people weren't as committed to that. The same thing for cats. It was 77% they believed it, but because they saw other people's cats, they thought that other people weren't as committed to that. When we asked them about welfare, did they believe that confining dogs indoors when unsupervised reduced their quality of life? And 39% said yes. When we asked about cats, only 19% strongly agreed that it reduced their quality of life. When we asked about predation, did they believe that dogs had a negative effect on native wildlife in their area? And 24% said yes. However, 65% of people believed that cats did. And then when we looked at attitudes influencing this belief, so the belief that dogs should be confined to their owner's property whenever unsupervised, not surprisingly, those people that believed that also believed that other people thought that. They also disagreed that confining dogs on the property reduced their quality of life. They did not have the belief about whether dogs predated wildlife had no effect on their attitude to confinement. And neither did age, whether they were older or less than 40 years of age, whether they're male or female, and the type of property they lived on. However, when we looked at the same question for cats, that I agree that cats should be confined to the owner's property whenever unsupervised, they also believed that other people, not surprisingly, believed that. They disagreed that confining the cat to the property reduced its quality of life. But interestingly, compared to dogs, there was a significant effect of believing that cats had a negative effect on native wildlife in their area. Like with dogs, age and gender had no effect, but interestingly, property type did. And if they lived in acreage, they were more likely to agree that cats should be confined on the owner's property. Now, we're particularly interested in this one about the people who thought it was acceptable for the cat to roam outside of the owner's property. And they thought that other people thought that was acceptable. They agreed that it reduced the quality of life of the cat. They disagreed that cats had a negative effect on wildlife. Again, age and gender had no effect, and they were more likely to live in a house with a garden. So in conclusion, 99% of people agreed dogs, agreed or strongly agreed, and 77% for cats, that they should be confined to the owner's property when unsupervised. Fewer believed that others believed that. Cat owners were less likely to agree than dog owners. And only 19% believed it reduced the cat's quality of life to be confined indoors when unsupervised, compared to 39% of people who thought that was a negative impact on the dog's quality of life. And so predictors for agreeing that acceptable for your cat to roam were that they believed others thought that, they believed about the quality of life effect, they disagreed that cats had a negative effect on native wildlife, and they lived in residential properties. And one of the issues with getting people to confine their cats, and which we didn't test, were the barriers. And I guess because it's so expensive to try and keep a cat on your property but not confined to your house, for most of these people, they probably thought that confining the cat meant it had to be kept in the house. And I'd just like to show you this picture. I got two cats that were pre-loved. They were both about 2 years of age, and this will be confronting for some of you in the room. But I intended, because they'd been indoor-only cats, and I intended as a responsible pet owner to keep them both inside. However, one of them, this brown cat, is a door dasher, and he was absolutely impossible. And at night, when you're trying to let the dogs out to pee, trying to keep him inside was impossible. And so he's on invisible fencing, and he knows exactly where the beeps start, and you can see him lying in the sun, enjoying the sun with the dog there. But it's not for everybody. He's happy, his behaviour's actually improved, he's much less frustrated. The other cat's a couch potato. She's so happy to stay inside, and that's what she wants. And if she gets out, she'll sit on the doorstep wanting to come in again. So that's my story, and I'm done.